So, how are we doing? All right. I've had a interesting couple of weeks, just a journey with the Lord, and he's been getting me. He's been wrecking me. I put some thanks, Amy. Put some tissues in my pocket because he's just been coming close. He's been encountering me. Ugh, I hate crying in front of people, but he's been he's been wrecking my heart for for this one reason. Like we come here and we sing songs and we tell him how great he is, and everything that we say is only in response to what we know, right? If we're just reading the words and we have no idea what they mean, then they're just words. If the music is pumping and the beat is slamming and the bass player is just rocking it and we're feeling it, it's not worship until it's magnifying, until it's celebrating, until it's lifting up what we know. And I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks. Like, what is his greatest desire for us? What did he come and get up on that cross for? His greatest desire, his greatest heartfelt desire for us is that we would know him. See, the whole plan of the enemy in the history of mankind, but just as much as ever in today, is that he would come and he would twist and he would cloud and he would stop us from actually knowing who God is. He wants us to not be able to see clearly the love that he has for us, the compassion that he has for us, the mercy that he has for us. And he uses so many horrible and disgusting strategies, but he uses them, and he uses them successfully every single day to stop us from being able to see who God is. We have so much noise. We have so many distractions that are coming at us each and every single day. I think about, I've been on social media, I've been on the news a little bit more than I probably should have been over the last couple of weeks as well. And it's just like we've got everything happening right now. We've got wars, we've got rumors of wars, we've got social divides, we've got a nation that is at odds with one another. And everything, every situation, every little bit of media and news coming at us is goal is to distract us from knowing the one who is greater. We have nuclear powers at odds with one another today, and he is greater. The biggest fears, the biggest concerns, the biggest threats against us, he is bigger. He is greater. He is stronger. Yet everything that comes at us wants us to get into a position of fear where we cannot see that truth clearly. And what I wanted to say this morning before I even get started is that he wants to know you. And he wants you to know him. There is nothing more important in this life than to know him. Because when we know him, we will be able to receive all that he wants to give us. When we know him, the noise and the fears and the concerns of this life become nothing. They become a shadow, a distant memory, because we know the one who has created all, who is over all, who is stronger and greater than every threat and every distraction and everything that tries to stand against us. And so with that in mind, there's this very intense story I want to read that's found in John 8, and you're probably familiar with it, but if you're not, what it is It's the story of the woman who was caught in adultery. And so the story goes, the Pharisees were looking to trap Jesus in his words. They knew that the law of Moses demanded that anyone who was caught in adultery should be brought before the court, and if they were found guilty, they were to be stoned to death. Judgment was to be passed. If they could prove that they were guilty of the sin, if they could prove that they had broken the law of Moses, they were deserving of judgment and they were deserving of punishment. So the Pharisees got together, and who knows how they set this up, but they found a woman caught in the very act of adultery. And in verse 3 of chapter 8 in John, it says, the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, and having set her in the center of the court, they said to him, being Jesus, Teacher, this woman has been caught in adultery in the very act. Now, the law of Moses commands us to stone such a woman. What then do you say? And there's so many cultural aspects of this that are very interesting. Why only bring the woman? It takes two to tango, but the Pharisees, they only brought the woman. But again, she is caught dead to rights in the act. And they bring her before Jesus. They drag her and they throw her in the center of the court. We'll try not to get too graphic, but you put yourself in that scene, whether you're the woman or whether you're Jesus and his disciples, you put yourself in that scene, and here is this guilty party dragged by an angry group of Pharisees, and they're in the middle of the temple. It's as though a group of men just walked in through those doors, and this distraught woman, whatever circumstance she might be dressed in, she's thrown at Jesus' feet, right in the center of the crowd. And they rightly point out the requirement of the law. Jesus, teacher, this woman's been caught. She's guilty. And the law demands this punishment. What are you going to do? I put myself in that scene, and it's just like, that's uncomfortable. That's intense. Oh. But I got to thinking, like, if I was her, like, this is the worst case scenario coming true. And so often we read this story, and it, probably rightfully so, we have a ton of compassion for her, and we read this story as though she's the victim of the story, and perhaps she is, but culturally in our world, I don't think that's true, because I grew up as a millennial in the heyday of Jerry Springer and Maury and Cheaters on MTV. And the echoes of my generation grunt, Jerry, get her, Jerry. The echo of Maury, this child is not yours. Right? And I put myself then again in the scene in the Bible here, and the anger and the visceral and the disgust and the judgment of everybody in the court, everybody in the room, eyes fixed on this woman, maybe barely dressed, just thrown into the dirt before Jesus' feet. And it's like, I can't imagine a worse way for your sin to be exposed. I can't imagine a worse way for your secret to be put on blast before everyone. Maury and Jerry Springer, they have nothing on this scene. And I think about it. Is she the victim? Because, she may be the victim in this story, but, so often in our lives, especially at the beginning of our walks with Jesus, this is what it feels like for our sin to be exposed. This is the type of vulnerability that, like, the moment of embarrassment and condemnation and just, exposure. This is quite often what it feels like when we are brought to the feet of Jesus. Maybe your mom or your grandmother, drags you to church, and you feel the conviction of your sin. You for a moment have his light pass on your life, and it passes over your sin, and it exposes the junk and the darkness that you've been living in. And quite often it feels that way, like just complete vulnerability and exposure. But the story doesn't end with the exposure, does it? The story moves forward. And we'll skip ahead, but we skip down. If you know the story, Jesus kneels down with the woman who's been thrown at his feet, kneels down and gets into the dirt with her. And he starts writing in the sand, and who knows what he was writing. Some people suggest maybe names, some people suggest sin. But whatever he's writing in the sand, he begins to challenge the Pharisees, and he says, you know what? You're right. She's guilty. But you, who are without sin, go ahead. Throw the first stone. Who wants to be the first? And he kneels down and he continues to write, and one by one they walk away. And it's just Jesus and the woman, and he stands up and he says to her in verse 10, "Woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you?" And I imagine going back into that story, like she's probably had her face fixed on the ground. Imagine trying to make eye contact with anybody in that court, the amount of shame that's on her. She's forced at that question to have to look up and see, is there anybody willing to throw the first stone? And she looks at Jesus and she says to him, "Lord, no one." So Jesus, I just see him looking at her, because remember, like, what does he want? What does he want more than anything? He wants her to know him. I can just see him looking at her, just, "I do not condemn you either. So go from now on and sin no more." See, the world and the pressures of the world and the enemy, they want us to be afraid of that moment, that worst case scenario where our sin is exposed and we're brought before Jesus, and all of our guilt is laid out for everybody to see. And I think of all of the things that she could have been met with in that moment. All of the worst case scenario fears that she had. Was she met with any one of those things? Did he stand her up and say, "It's time for you to confess in front of everybody who you are and what you've done? It's time for you to be exposed again"? No, he looks at her right in the eyes and says, "Neither do I condemn you." And I wonder about, like, this is the last we hear of this woman. I wonder where she goes from that moment, what her life began to look like. But we get this clue from John, because the very next verse is this: Jesus continues to speak to the people, and he says, "Then Jesus again spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." See, again, these Pharisees brought her to expose her. They brought, she fell into their trap, but they brought this woman before Jesus to expose him, or to expose her. And she was exposed. And I wonder about the Pharisees. I mean, they're probably taking credit for it. But he follows up that story and he says, you know what? They're not the light of this world. Their judgment, their plan to use you in their game, their plan to use you as a trap against me, they're not the light of the world. It wasn't their evil plan to expose you that got you the forgiveness that you needed. It wasn't their evil plan to condemn you and to have you stoned before me that brought you into this light. You see, when things are exposed, sometimes they feel just like this woman felt in this story. Sometimes it feels unbearable. Sometimes it feels so vulnerable and so freaking scary. What will happen if my sin is exposed? What will happen if they know what I feel inside of my heart? The fears that I have, the worries that I carry, the lies that I've believed, the unforgiveness that I walk in, the offense that I harbor inside of my heart. What will happen if they know what's going on inside of me? Feels like the story of this woman, like, who's going to be the first that throws this stone? Who's going to be the first that passes judgment against me? And Jesus says, listen, they're not the light of this world. See, you think it's their judgment. You think it's their rigidness, their law that's exposing your sin. But I tell you, I am the light of the world. It's my love that's exposing your sin. Because I think about this story. What if the Pharisees never went and got that woman? Would she ever have encountered the forgiveness of Jesus? See, again, we read this as she's a victim, she's a pawn, and yes, they wanted to use her for evil, but would she ever have met Jesus had they not dragged her from that bed and threw him at his feet? She suffered. In that moment, she suffered the worst of embarrassment, the worst of condemnation, the worst of her worst case scenario fears. She faced them, but what did she receive? She received the light of life. She received the forgiveness that she needed. See, she was guilty. But she received from God what she needed for her redemption. And so sometimes we get the reputation in this church, and I probably am one of the biggest culprits as well, of exposing those feelings inside of us, those fears. I don't want anybody to know what's going on inside of my heart. But then I read these words, and they expose, and they challenge, and they convict, and they are freaking scary sometimes. But why? Why did they challenge us? Why did they convict us? Why did they expose us? The world would tell you so that the Christians in that church can tell you how much better they are than you. They're so legalistic. They're telling you that you can't do this and you can't do that. And if you do this and if you do that, he's not going to love you. They're not going to love you. They're going to throw stones at you. If they find out who you really are and what's really going on inside of you, they're going to throw stones at you. Okay, yes, I felt that. Has anybody else felt that? Raise your hand. Not looking. Right? Why do we feel this way? Because we're afraid of him. We're afraid of what the light will expose. When he's telling us from the beginning of this book to the end, is all I want is for you to know me, for you to know my mercy, for you to know my love. I will do everything to remove the blockages, to remove the things that stop you from knowing me, from experiencing me, from knowing what it is to have the true and complete love of a Father. Knowing what it is to have the love of a Savior that was willing to suffer and die so that you might have the ability to be reconnected to the Father. That you might have the ability to know his truth and know his love. And that sounds great when I'm saying it right now, right? I want that. I want his love. I want his truth. I want the Father to know me, and I want to know him. But the problem is with this light of life. What is this light of life? You think about the principle of what light is. Right now, we've got light just beaming in my eyes. It's painful for me to look up. But that light is making sure that you can see me. And everything that's wrong with my outfit right now. All the grays that I couldn't trim out of my beard. All my imperfections are on display for you to see. See, light makes things visible. Light exposes. And that's the scary part. But you want to know the good part about light? Is it brings clarity. You ever try to walk through a pitch dark room? I am guilty, and my wife will tell you that I am the worst culprit in my house of leaving my laundry on the floor. And every night, without fail, I make the journey into my dark bedroom and trip over something and wake her up if she's fallen asleep already. Right? You think about how often we walk into a dark room and we walk on eggshells like, I don't know what's going to happen. What's waiting in line for me to trip over? Or we're walking in a dark forest, like the forest during the daytime is just beautiful. Oh, God's glory, it's so amazing, it's beautiful. You walk in at night, what's going to kill me? What was that noise? I bet you there's a mountain lion. Right? See, the light brings clarity, casts out our fears. It helps us see the path forward. It helps us see what lies ahead of us. It gives us hope. But when we don't have that light, what we have is we have that feeling of walking on eggshells. We have that feeling of, am I going to trip? Am I going to fall into something? Am I going to get trapped? Am I going to be exposed and condemned? We need this light operating in our life. And so Jesus in Luke 11 tells us what we need to do to have that light operating in our life, what we're supposed to do once we receive the light of life into us. And he says this, which you're probably all familiar with because it's the best Sunday school song, but no one after lighting a lamp puts it away in a cellar, nor under a basket, but on the lampstand, so that those who enter may see the light. What does light do again? It exposes. And when we first receive that light, it can be scary, but when we start walking in the fruit of that light, we go, oh, this is amazing. He loves me. Even though I'm a terrible sinner, he loves me. He forgives me. But we want that light to be a one-time encounter. I took my journey. It was a scary journey. My knees were shaking the whole way, but I got all the way to the altar. And I said, Jesus, would you forgive me? And I encountered him and I experienced him and he was real and he forgave me. Isn't that great that I'll never have to do that again? I know this other stuff is coming up, like this offense and this unforgiveness. It's no big deal though, right? This other sin, this bondage I still have operating in my life. Can I just, instead of taking that bone-shattering, scary journey back up to the altar to be forgiven, can I just put that aspect of his light under a basket? Can I just put that light down in the cellar? I really don't like this exposure that's going on right now. What if they see that I'm not who I'm trying to make them believe that I am? What if they have stones in their pockets? What's going to happen to me? So we give into that fear. We give into that lie. It's like, he's going to hate me. He's going to expose me. I'm going to get stoned. I'm going to get judged. I'm going to be condemned. The one who literally had his flesh ripped off of his back, his beard pulled off of his face, to forgive us of our sin. And we go, he's going to judge me. He's going to expose me. I don't want that. I'm afraid. So let me put this light under a basket. I took the journey to the steps. I filled out the prayer card. Please don't shine any more light on me. All right, it's just me, none of you guys. All right. No, the question is, why are we so afraid of this exposure? Here is this woman caught in the worst of circumstances, the worst case scenario for your sin to be exposed and put out for everybody to see. And what did she encounter? There probably are some of us that are guilty of that sin in this room, but we're not going to raise hands. And we probably weren't met with the same welcome when our sin was exposed. But here she is. When she looks up from that ground, when she looks up from the dirt that he had been writing in, what did she encounter? Was he an angry and judgmental God waiting to just berate her? No. He caught her eye, and with love, he says, neither do I condemn you. Go, sin no more. So what are we afraid of? Why do we pull back? I don't want anybody to know how offended I am. I don't want anybody to know how much I struggle with generosity and to give and to trust. I don't want anybody to know that I haven't forgiven the person that I know I'm supposed to forgive. I don't want anybody to know that I still struggle with self-hate and I curse myself up and down every single night when I go to bed. I don't want anybody to know how much fear is inside of me of every germ that's imaginable. I don't want anybody to know. Because I'm afraid. What will they think? I'm afraid. What will they throw? And this is one of the worst. This is what I've been crying about for weeks. This is one of the worst lies of the enemy, because the truth is, on the other side of our exposure, on the other side of us encountering the light that shines on us for all of our heart to be seen and all of our fears and all of our sin, on the other side of what exposes us is his love. We are looking at him as though there is a veil in front of our eyes, and it's our sin and it's our fear of judgment. And so we come up with so many excuses not to show him what's going on inside of us. And all we think is that that's protecting us and that's keeping us safe so that no one can throw any stones. But all it's doing is it's stopping us from being able to see him. And he's standing on the other side of that veil, looking at us with eyes of compassion, kneel down in the dirt with us, going, I don't want to condemn you. I don't want to expose you so that you're embarrassed. I don't want to expose you so that everybody else can tell you you're less than. The exposure that I want is so that you can see my eyes. So you can see how much I love you, see how much I did for you. And the enemy, he says, keep that hidden. Put that away. Don't go and confess anything. Don't go and show anybody anything. Don't trust them. They just think that they're better than you. They're self-righteous and they're better than those. Hide it away. Put that light, that little bit of exposure, put that down in the cellar so that nobody will see you. But this is the truth, people. This is the truth. Paul says in Ephesians 5, he says this. After he goes and he tells the Ephesians, listen, there's a time coming where the light of the world is going to come into the world and everything will be exposed. Every evil, every selfish, every despicable thing will be exposed for everybody to see. And it'll be the day of judgment where everybody's lined up. And your turn will come. And you will stand in front of everybody that you're afraid of knowing your business. You will stand upon in front of the multitude and multitudes of people, and you will have to be judged. But he says this, you who have heard my voice, you who have heard the truth of our Lord Jesus Christ, you have the opportunity to have the light of his life come into you today so that your stuff can be exposed on this side of that day, on this side of that judgment. Because he says, but all things become visible when they are exposed by the light, for everything becomes visible in the light. But this is why. For this reason, it says, awake, sleeper, and arise from the dead. Awake, get up, expose it. Let the light shine on you. And Christ will shine on you. And you will see him. And he will see you. And on this side of that day, I promise you, church, you will catch his gaze, you will catch his eyes, and it won't be a stare of judgment and condemnation. It'll be a look of compassion. It'll be a look of mercy, and he will say, "Where are your condemners?" Listen, it's just you and me. I don't care that you've been caught in the act. I don't care that you're guilty of this and guilty of that. This moment, right now, in my light, in the light of my life, it's just you and me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's just you and me. And he will say, "Know me. Know my compassion for you. Know the grace that I have for you. Stand up, be forgiven. Walk with my light of life. Walk with me and know me." So stand up with me, guys. Jesus, we come to you. Jesus, we come to you. Some of us feel like we've been thrown at your feet. Some of us right now, our hearts are beating as though that spotlight is shining just on us. The conviction of our sin, the conviction of the lies that we've been living under, the conviction of the bondage that we're in. It feels like it's just us. And every eye is on us, and everything has been exposed. Jesus, it's uncomfortable. But you got to ask yourself, do you want to remain in the dark? Do you want to remain in the place where you can't see him clearly? Where you can't know him for who he is? I hope that nobody in this room does. And if that's the case, I want everybody in the room to pray this prayer with me. Say, "Jesus, I don't want to remain in the dark. I don't want to remain in the fear of judgment. I don't want to remain in the place where I'm afraid of being seen by you. So, Jesus, would you expose my fear? And just right now, he's showing some of you pictures of what you're most afraid of. What your worst case scenario exposure is. He's showing you. I don't want to tell that person. Even though I know that person could help me, I'm afraid of confessing to that person. I don't want to tell my children that I'm sorry. I don't want to ask my parents for forgiveness. I don't want to trust you with that extra dollar. I don't want to confess that I'm the woman in the dirt and I'm guilty of my sin. Now that you have a picture of what it is, I want you to take whatever it is and in your mind's eye, just put it in your hands. And say, "Jesus, I surrender my fear. I don't want to be afraid of you anymore. I don't want this to be the thing that stops me from seeing you. Now give it to him for real. Don't just let this be something that you repeat because I'm telling you to repeat it. He's showing you guys, right now, he's showing you, some of you, what the next step is. He's highlighted somebody to you that you need to go pursue. You need to go confess so that you can be forgiven. He's showing you the next step of trust that he wants you to take. There's action behind faith. There's always action behind faith. What is left in the darkness will be judged. What is brought into the light will be forgiven. He went to that cross that you would be forgiven. And he went to that cross because he wants us to know him. He doesn't want us to fear him. So do what he's asking you to do. Encounter him for who he is. The Lord, abounding in love, compassionate and gracious, abounding in steadfast love and forgiveness. The Lord, who suffered and died that you might live, who rose again so that you might receive the light of his life. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe so that you never miss another video or live stream. And if you'd like to support the Father's House, just click the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you soon.